What if I told you that it was possible to show a man that you're interested in him without chasing him? And what if I also told you that this method will never require you to ask him out or ask him for his number? If that sounds exciting to you, then join me on today's show where we'll be discussing how to show him you like him without scaring him away. That way you can get the man that you're interested in to come after you without ever getting outside of your natural feminine energy. Let's start off with number one, called double speak. So we have here an expression, I'm okay. So if someone says to you, I'm okay, in just the words, right? Nothing else, no other context, you would make the assumption that someone who says, I'm okay, feels very similar to this, right? However, when you add someone is shrugging, their shoulders are down, right? They're looking away. Their eyes are very gloomy. Their eyes are red even, and they're looking at you. And when you ask them, how are you doing? They say, I'm okay. Very, very different. So when we add body, when we add face, and when we add, we'll say tone, in this scenario here, I'm okay actually conveys I'm very sad. Okay? So the reason that I call it double speak is because this happens in all of our different forms of communication. We're always communicating to each other on multiple levels. And so there's the initial level, right? The top level, which is what words am I saying? And then there's the bottom level, which is what am I actually trying to express underneath the words that I'm saying? And as human beings, we've learned to take in this context in combination with this context to really put a picture together of what message someone is actually trying to convey to us. Okay, so now what does this have to do with you and your relationships and showing guys that you like them? Now, this becomes very interesting because when you master this, you understand that flirting with men that you like and are interested in is not about coming up to them and saying, hey, I think you're really sexy. I think you're the best dressed guy here. I think that you have really big muscles and you're a man that could probably protect and provide for me. I would love for you to ask me out on a date. That's not going to work. It's not going to be flirtatious, and it's going to feel very unnatural to the guy because you're putting him in a position where you're chasing after him, you're leaning forward, and you're the one approaching him. We don't want that. We want you to stay in your feminine energy. So in order for us to do that, we have to understand how can we get you to communicate subtle things, right? Feelings and emotions that you feel without ever actually saying those things, okay? Because the same way this works here, it also works in the opposite sense, right? Meaning that if I want to convey a message that I don't want to say, I can use all of these different key points, elements of expression to express a message that I'm not actually going to say out of my mouth. Now, this is great for you as a woman because now when you like a guy, instead of just coming out and saying, I like you, right? And being the aggressor, being the one pushing this relationship forward, you can stay in your feminine, meaning not be the aggressor, not be the one asking him out, but you can give him a lot of subtle signs that let him know, hey, I actually like you. I actually think you're interesting, and I actually would be open to going out on a date with you, okay? So this is a very important concept. Now, when you're talking to guys or having conversation with them, and you can implement this by having them talk to you or you having conversation with them in a way where instead of you focusing on the words that you're saying, focus on how you're expressing your body language, your tonality, and your facial expressions. So, for example, if a guy comes up to you at a bar and you're actually interested in this guy and you think that, he's actually really sexy, really attractive, okay? And he's having conversation with you and he's like, I just thought you were so beautiful over there and I wanted to come talk to you. Do you think, I'm someone that you'd be interested in? You can say, I don't know. Are you interesting? I've never met you before. How can I possibly know? I'm a bad actor, but you get my drift, right? See, you're not actually answering the question, right? You're not taking your words and directly giving him an answer that would make it upfront and obvious what you feel and what your answer truly is. but you're making him feel what your answer is through your expression of body, face, and tonality, right? Because if I really wasn't interested in you, I could say the exact same thing and it would come across very different. If a guy came up to me in that same example and said, do you think that I'm interesting? And you said, I don't know, are you? I've never met you before. How would I know? It's the same words, but it feels very different. There's a reason for that, right? And it's supposed to be like that, but that's good for you because now you don't have to be nervous about what should I say. Instead, you start thinking to yourself, how should I make him feel through all of these other forms of expression outside of just my words, right? So this right here is the key to a lot of your answers, right? When you're thinking about how to show guys you like them, you're never going to be in the business of just saying the exact words of what you feel or how much you like him. You're never, ever do that, okay? I'm not teaching that to you in the Players Club. But obviously, we want to give guys clues. We want to give guys signs. We want to give them the clear runway to make them feel like they can approach you, that they can talk to you, that they can escalate things forward. We want the guys to be the ones escalating, to be the ones pushing things forward. We want you in your feminine receiving energy. However, of course, we want to make it clear when men are approaching you that this is a clear runway. I'm actually interested in you as well. But we don't want to make the mistake of saying it outright that it becomes a situation where you're now the aggressor. Are you following me, right? I should say aggressor, you're now the pursuer. We'll say it like that. Aggressor just sounds so aggressive. Number 2 here is isolation, where you're here and the guy you're talking to is here. And around you all, the both of you, there are all these other people. In this scenario here, there's nothing particularly wrong with having a conversation with someone and other people are around, whether you're at the club, whether you're at the bar, whether you're at wherever you're at. There are obviously people going to be around, right? Okay, even a coffee shop, right? But here's the thing. Isolation can be a great way, having an isolation conversation, I should say specifically, can be a great way to show a guy, hey, I'm actually interested in you, that I don't necessarily just want us to have this conversation here, in this setting where we're around a bunch of people, but I would also be open to having this conversation with you away from the crowd of people where we can kind of hear each other, get to know each other a little bit better, and have a little bit more of a in-depth discussion, okay? Right? Because a conversation like this, while you can connect, will never be as intimate as having a conversation like this, where essentially there is no one here except the two of you, right? It's a lot more intimate of a setting because when all of these other people are around here, there can be a lot of distractions and a lot of stimulus going on that can distract the both of you from getting to know each other a little bit better, from having this conversation, from going more in depth. Now, remember, you're a woman in your feminine energy. You don't want to put yourself in a position where you're the one saying, hey, let's go over here and have a conversation because I like you so much and I want you so much and I think you're so sexy. No, this is what you do here in this scenario. Instead of being the one recommending we go somewhere else or have a little bit more of an intimate conversation, you make a statement like, hey, it's a little bit loud here. I can't really hear you over here. There's a lot of music or there's a lot of people. There's a lot going on here. This is kind of like a tough place to have a conversation, right? And this is where your communication comes into play, where you don't want to make it seem like I don't want to talk to you, but you do want to make it seem like, no, like I really want to talk to you, but I can't, like it's like really hard to hear you. Like I'm really interested in this conversation, but I can't really, there's loud music and stuff like that. This music's really loud, right? And this is where you leave it to men, once you state it, to take the control and say, oh yeah, the music is really loud. You want to go outside and have a conversation? Perfect. And the reason that this is good, because some of you are probably thinking, well, how does me recommending isolation in the conversation mean that I'm showing him that I'm interested? Remember, everything that you're doing is meant to be subtle. Meaning never are you overtly coming out and telling him, hey, I like you, I want to get to know you, and I want to date you. You're never doing that. You're always giving him hints that I would only be doing these things if I was interested in you or interested in our conversation. And this is a perfect example of that. You would never be open to going and having a conversation. If you're, let's just say you're at an event, okay? And this event's going on inside and people are having fun, they're having drinks and having food and things like that. You would never take yourself out of the event and go have a conversation with him outside of the event just one-on-one if you didn't find him interesting. It just doesn't make logical sense, right? You would never remove yourself or isolate yourself, even if it's isolating yourself at the party or at the event where you're going in a particular corner or upstairs where the music isn't blaring to have a conversation with him, right? You would never be doing that if you weren't actually interested in him. So this is another kind of example of you feeding him through your body language, your tone, your facial expression, you feeding him and your energy overall, feeding him examples of how, yes, I'm interested in you and I like you and I like where this is going. However, I'm not going to just come out and say, I think you're the most sexy man in this whole party and I'm talking to you because of how much I want you. You're never going to do that. But you're going to make him feel that through the way that you maneuver and weave this conversation, okay? So this is something, obviously, it takes some practice. You're going to have to kind of weave this into, the conversation, weave it in naturally as you have more conversations with people, okay? This will become easier for you, right? This is not something that you just grasp on the first try, especially if you're not someone that's used to being able to have one-on-one conversation with people or that makes you nervous. Number 3, you're going to do something very, very sneaky. See, remember, I told you, you're never in the business of making things obvious. Now, you can make things so obvious that men only have to do very little work to put 2 and 2 together. And by the time they put 2 and 2 together, it's obvious that, you must be interested. Because I know some of you are thinking to yourselves, but Tomisin, what if this guy that I'm talking to is so dumb and so silly and so, unaware that even when I do all the other stuff you're talking about, it's not obvious enough for him because he doesn't know what's going on here, all right? So we're gonna give you a little bit of a more obvious alternative, and you can decide for yourself if you want to use this alternative here, okay? Let's just say some of his qualities here, he's like me, okay? So he's 6'3", like me. Let's say he's strong, and let's just say he, for whatever sake, is creative. You're gonna do something very interesting. As you're having conversation with him, I want you to weave in conversation how your type of guys, right? When you're just talking about, the type of guys you've dated, I'm sure if he's interested in you, you guys are going to stumble across the conversation of guys you've either dated, been seeing, or whether each of you are single or not, right? Of course, if you guys find each other interesting, that's going to be a topic at some point in the conversation. So what I want you to do is I actually want you to describe your type of guy, or the type of guys you find the most interesting. This is if you want to show him you like him, right? I want you to describe the type of guys that you find interesting as him, okay? Now, very, very, very important. You are not going to say, my type is you. Do not say that. Okay? You're also not gonna say, hey, I like guys who are 6'3" like you. I like guys who are strong like you. I like guys who are funny like you and creative like you. You're not doing that, okay? That's too on the nose, as we would say in film, right? What you wanna do is you wanna make sure that you describe the general sense, right? And some of the general characteristics of the type of guys that you're interested in, and make yourself oblivious to the fact that everything he's either described to you or everything that you see from him is exactly what you just described. You leave it there, okay? Because the men that at least have somewhat emotional intelligence will be able to put 2 and 2 together and say, you like guys who are tall, me tall. You like guys who are strong, me strong. You like guys who are funny, I tell jokes. I feel like she just described me. Now, it doesn't take that much work depending on their level of emotional intelligence, right? It'll either be easy to grasp right away, or they might take some time to grasp it. But my point being is this is a nice well, it's a little bit more obvious than the other ones, a little bit more obvious, but still subtle enough where you're not the pursuer, okay? You like guys that are 6'3", strong, funny, and creative. And it just so happens that he is that. Okay. Now, you didn't know that. You didn't realize that. You never even thought of that. It didn't even occur to you. All you did was simply answer the question or talk about your type. It just so happened that your type happened to be standing in front of you and you're having a conversation with him. Oh, who would have known? Okay. And here's a little pro tip. Even if he addresses the fact that, hey, I feel like you just described me. I'm 6'3". I'm strong. I'm funny. I'm creative. You're literally like, so your type is me then. You say, no, probably not. Because now he's like, wait, 6'3". Yeah. Funny. Yeah. Strong. It's not, but it has to be me. It's me. You just described me. I don't know. I don't really know you that well, so I don't know if maybe it's you, but maybe it's not, right? I don't know you well enough to know if it's for sure you. And you kind of play with his mind there a little bit, right? And I know you're thinking, well, why would I want to confuse him, Tomisin? Why wouldn't I just tell him that, yeah, my type is you? Because that's not what you want to do if you're trying to stay in your feminine energy. Remember, we want him taking a step forward. So in that case, in this scenario, confusion is actually good, because confusion, especially if he's interested in you, will make him lean in a little more to start listening and trying to understand you a little bit more and trying to understand what you're saying a little bit more. That's actually what flirting is, right? They call it push and pull, because when you pull back, it allows the guys that you're interested in to push forward a little bit, lean in a little bit, and actually try and listen and be focused in on this conversation to try to decode and decipher everything that's going on, right? Remember, we talked about at the beginning of the show how there's double speak in everything that we say and everything that we do. It's not just the words we say, it's also our body language. So the more things you give men to decode while you're in conversation with them, the more they have to lean forward and be in tune with everything that's going on in order to decipher what is actually being said and what is actually being communicated, okay? And that process of men having to lean in and listen more or focus more in on you in this conversation is actually what people deem as someone being more interesting, more magnetic, right? Or more just fascinating. Because it seems like in my mind, I have to do so much mental gymnastics to figure this person out. It's not on the nose. It's not so obvious to me, right? It's the same reason why the people who, for you, that just come up to you and tell you how much they love you, how amazing you are, and how much they want to be with you, those are the most boring and uninteresting people to you. Number 4 is to close the distance. When there's a lot of distance between you guys while having conversation, this can feel very platonic. Now, without getting too deep into psychology here, how we feel emotionally will be represented in the level of either physical closeness or farness that we have with another human being. So I say that to say, when you're with a guy and there is a lot of space in between you guys and you guys are having conversation, this can feel very platonic. And so if a guy comes up to you and he's interested in you and you find him interesting as well, and you have too much space in between you two, he will actually start to make the assumption that you're uninterested in him, right? That you don't want him. Why? Because this physical representation is meant to be an emotional representation of how you feel about him. So he's going to assume this is a platonic level of distance, which means you just want to be friends. Because if the distance between us while having conversation is very far, then that means emotionally within you, internally, you feel like you're not that, romantically attached or interested in me, okay? Now, vice versa, when the distance between you and this man, right, is very, very close, right, this feels a lot more romantic. Now, I want us to be very clear on something. I'm not advising you to kiss him in order to show him that you're interested in him. Let me break this down for you so that you can understand how to do this in a way that makes him feel like you're interested without ever going overboard or doing anything that, wouldn't be appropriate for just having conversation with someone. This process can be done very strategically and slickly, meaning When you start having a conversation with a guy and you're going back and forth, you're joking, you're bantering and things like that, you can look for excuses to get closer to him as the conversation is going on. What you also want to take into account is it can start like this when the conversation begins. Let's say you're meeting a guy for the first time at an event or something, and as time goes on, you can get closer and closer and closer together. And this can be actually something that you implement as a strategy because you understand what you're communicating. Remember, we talked about at the beginning, double speak with your body language, your tone, and your facial expression, right? That you're communicating, hey, I actually am interested in you, which is why I'm kind of closing the distance in on our conversation. Now, let me give you a little bit of a pro trick in order to close distance while you're talking to a guy, okay? We're not gonna tell anyone about this. It's just our little Players Club little secret, okay? Laughter is always really disarming. So what you can do, even if he's not really that funny, it doesn't have to be Kevin Hart, but this is something I've even taken notice of with other people. A great flirting trick to close that gap and close that distance. Let's say he tells a joke. Oh, what about that joke, when the chicken crossed the road? And you're like, oh my God, you're so funny. And what you want to do here, you want to take your arm, you want to hold his right here, okay? Right? This area, right? From kind of like the bicep area to the mid forearm. You hold this right here as if you're holding it for support. Oh my God, the chicken crossed the road. You're so funny. I can't believe you said that one. Like, I've never heard that one in my life. You hold on as if you're about to fall over because when he's telling the joke, it's just, the wave is just hitting you and he's like Kevin Hart. He's just so funny, right? And this is a great way to close that distance and also do what we describe as, this is kind of like a psychological term, breaking the touch barrier. Because when you first meet someone and have conversation with them, obviously you're not going to be touching strangers. But obviously also as you feel more close to someone, you don't just want to dive in head first into breaking the touch barrier in a way that's a little bit too obvious or makes one or the other person feel uncomfortable, right? So laughter is a great way to diffuse a situation and make it very harmless, where it's like, oh, I'm just touching you in the midst of me laughing that we're not even noticing, right? And you can continue to do that on an ongoing basis. Now, you don't have to be laughing like the Joker, okay? But these are the type of pro tips that you can use as the conversation is going on to bring that closeness a little bit more, right? And to continuously break that touch barrier. The other kind of pro tip, and like I just said, would be to break the touch barrier on an ongoing basis. So at the beginning, when you guys are starting off more platonic because he's coming up to you, you're just having conversations a little bit, more chill and relaxed. As you're, either gaining feelings for him, or if this is just a guy you want to communicate, hey, I'm interested in you, you want to start to up that frequency of the amount of times you break that touch barrier. So even if you're telling him a story, right? As you're telling the story and you're describing, what you went through, and you're describing, oh yeah, me and my friend, we literally went to that restaurant. What was it? And you hit him on his chest. What was it, that restaurant? Oh, it's like on, it's on King Street. I can't remember the name of that one. Do you know the name of that? And see, you can become like a Jedi. That's just an amazing flirter without actually saying anything. And when you get good at this, you'll be able to talk about anything while communicating, I like you. I know it sounds, for those of you who haven't done this before or are unfamiliar with this, what I just did sounds really, really like, what did I just do, right? It doesn't make any sense. But I promise you, as you implement some of these things, you practice it, you get better at it, it'll become more obvious to you when it's happening, and it'll also become easier for you to do and implement in your everyday life. Number 5 is gonna sound funny, but the analogy, I promise you, will make sense. I wrote down car salesman not because you're going to be a car salesman. We never want you to be a car salesman, okay? Never, ever in your life. Are you gonna car salesman yourself or any type of relationship? We want you to turn the man into a car salesman, okay? So let me kind of draw it for you a little bit of a visual. You're at a car dealership and there is a really nice, right, beautiful Mercedes here. You can drive off into the sunset. And there's a car salesman here, and he's taking notice of the fact that you like this car. A Mercedes-Benz G-Wagon with all the specs that you've been wanting. It looks just like Kylie Jenner's G-Wagon, okay? And you come to the dealership and you really want that car. So by the time the car salesman even comes up to you, he already can see it on your face that you really want that car. You're smiling, you're going crazy, you're sending your friends Snapchat videos and IG videos. You're like, guys, look, in the group chat, I'm literally gonna buy this. This was the exact model I've been looking for. So you wanna know what that car salesman does when he sees you like this, right? Super hyped up and super excited to get that G-Wagon. He says, perfect. I've got to take her on my hands, right? And if, let's say, you walk into that store with a Chanel purse too, he's like, oh, she's got a Chanel purse. She's got these beautiful diamond earrings. Oh, she looks like $1 million. She's got money. She might even have cash to pay for this car. So you want to know what the car salesman does when he comes up to you and he finally has a conversation with you? He is not going to negotiate a damn thing. What he has on his mind is, I'm gonna charge the hell out of her because she's prepared to pay for this car. She looks the part, she's excited for the car, and it looks like she knows that's the one she wants. She's already fallen in love with this car. So the car salesman is thinking, I ain't giving no damn discounts because there's no need for me to. You're already sold. Now, let's say, for the sake of example, instead of you being really excited for this car when you come in and looking like that was the exact one you were looking for, let's just say you show up and, you're not really, shopping for any particular car. You're just kind of browsing around and you're a little bit more neutral. Now, instead of the car salesman approaching you, thinking about how he's about to hit a lick because he's about to overcharge you on this G-Wagon, he says to himself, oh, she doesn't look like she's really that impressed by any of these cars. So if I'm gonna sell her this G-Wagon, right, I'm gonna have to discount the price because when I see her, right, I feel like she's not gonna want to spend a lot of money. So I need to give some sort of incentive to make it easier for her to buy this car, right? Why? Because I, car salesman, I need a sale. And if she's on the fence, I'm gonna have to do things to take off the price, to, let's say make the financing good, make it sound nice, figure out what she wants or what she needs so that I can get her to purchase this car that she doesn't really look that interested in, okay? So now some of you are wondering, okay, how does any of this, connect to my ability to flirt or show guys that I like them or that I'm interested in them? See, in this scenario here, you're you, but the guy in your life that you want to show that you like him is the car salesman. Why? Because he is trying to get something from you, right? He's not trying to get you a car, right? Instead, right, think of the car as access. Now, the car is access to you. So he's trying to get that from you. But what you want to do is you want to put him in a position where he feels the need to sell you on the idea that you should give him access to you, right? You want him to become a car salesman. Why? Because this is what's going to put him in his masculine energy, trying to approach and pursue you, which is actually what's going to make everyone fit into their natural roles and allow him to be the one chasing after you instead of you being the one chasing after him. So you're probably thinking, well, okay, that's fine that it puts him in his masculine energy, but then how does that actually show him? How can I actually show him that I like him through that though? Here's the thing. So what you're gonna do when you're having conversation with him is you're always gonna respond to any sort of offering he gives you of, hey, maybe we should go out somewhere. Maybe we should, me and your friends and my friends should all go to a different bar after this. Maybe we should attend a party tomorrow. Hey, I've got an event tomorrow. Do you wanna come to it? Anytime he asks or implies getting more access to you, asking for your phone number, anything like that, what you want to do is, with double speak, like we talked about at the beginning of the show, you want to implement double speak and use and give him an answer that is, I'm not really sure. I don't know. Like I have lots to do and my friends are here and I just don't think, I don't know if I'll be able to come, right? But you want to remember, you're using doublespeak, meaning you're using your tone, your body language, and your facial expressions to show him, I'm not saying I don't know or I'm not sure because I'm not interested in you. I'm saying I don't know, I'm not sure because I am interested in you. I just want you to sell me. This is part of the back and forth game that is flirting when you're doing it really well and doing it really subtly, right? You don't want people to know how much you like them, right? And remember, you're the woman. So you still, even when you like a guy, want him to be the one doing the pursuing. So what you do is you give him runway to understand this is an opportunity for you to pursue. I like you, so I'm here to give you this opportunity. However, you're going to have to sell me on the idea that you deserve this opportunity. So show me what you're prepared to do for this opportunity. I know it sounds very foolish, but this is a great way to get men to understand, oh, you are interested, but you're just saying, let me take a step forward now. Because similarly in our analogy here, right, when the car salesman sees that you're on the fence about the car, he immediately starts thinking of what can I offer you as an incentive for you to buy the car, right? Because he wants you to get the car. Right? The same way the guys that you're in a relationship with, or not relationship, that you're talking to that have interest in you as well, right? They want access to you. And if you want to show him that you're interested in him as well, you have to play that cat and mouse game to give him runway and then see what he does with that, okay? Now, obviously, as you know, with any sort of flirting and anything that you're going to do when it comes to showing guys interest, there will be some guys that you attempt all 5 of these things on, even if you become a pro, and some guys won't take the bait. What you have to understand and let go of is realize that when you do this, the people who are interested in you will give you that energy back. But sometimes when you do this, the people that you're interested in, or the guy that you're interested in this case, will not reciprocate that energy. Now it becomes your task as you're flirting with him and as you guys are going back and forth to figure out, hey, is this working? Are you taking a step forward? Or is this progressing? Or are you not really on my same wavelength there? You know, we have a totally different energy here.